Well, hi, and thank you so much for joining me in my shop here. Today we're going to be taking a look at this Seeburg Jukebox amplifier just in order to develop a plan of approach for how to work on this guy. So, but first, just before I do that, many of you are subscribers. Some of you will be trying to watch this Seeburg stuff I'm doing, but normally I'm posting a video a day on radio repairs, and I haven't the last few days because, hey, the weather has been fantastic. In fact, today it's even more than fantastic, so I had to kind of push myself to come down in the shop here because I live in Canada and the summer is not year-round. So when the summer comes, it's time to be outside. Lots of time to be inside in the winter. So, and in the background, you can probably see a pile of tubes back here. While I'm not working in my shop, I'm still working here, working on my tube collection and the like. It's all aftermath of a lot of stuff I did with the tube testers and things like that. I'm now in the process of going through my tube collection and organizing it much better. So anyway, I'm not in here, I'm still working. So let's take a look at this guy. Now, this is a big monster. Look at this thing. Holy smokes. 2 output transformers. Pretty sure this is a power supply transformer, but this is only part of a Seeburg Jukebox. There's other large pieces in there. Perhaps the power supply is in other pieces. Okay, I'll take that back. There's a big rectifier tube here. So rectifier tube, big transformer. This has to be a power supply. This is probably a choke. I'll bet you. I can only see 2 wires coming out of this, so this is probably the power supply choke. And there's the filter capacitors there. So okay, that's what's happening here. Output transformers, big raft of tubes here, little guys and big guys. So these are probably the drivers of the big guys, probably in push-pull. This is a stereo amplifier. And a lot of jukeboxes are not stereo, they are mono. This guy's stereo. Let me switch them around here. Another thing about jukeboxes is you need a forklift truck to lift them up. They're just, the jukeboxes are built like automobiles. So there, let's get a little better look at what's written on here, and we'll just go down it, see what we can learn about it. Oh, now, if you've noticed already, I've got green pieces of tape on these tubes. All these tubes have been tube tested by me, and it turns out of this collection of tubes, 5 of them were bad. Bad enough they must be replaced. Now that's part of what's got me going through my tube collection looking for replacements. So I'm able to replace all the bad ones except these output tubes. I don't have any of these. These are 6973. They're just numbered tubes. So anyway, maybe there's something that can be substituted in. I don't think so. So I'm probably gonna have to order 1 or 2 of these. The rest I can replace myself. Good. In fact, here's one of the replacements laying right here now. So this is my own tube from my tube collection. I'll just put it over there. The other tubes, 12 AX7 tubes. There's 2 or 3 in here that are dead. I have to test mine before I know for sure I've got good ones. But otherwise, this guy's great, in great condition. The rest of them are all pretty good. So this is a pretty simple amplifier. You just draw a line right up the middle and you got a left channel, a right channel, just like that. Down here is the input. You can see an input socket goes in there. 3 wires, so it has to be a ground, and 2 signal wires, a left and a right. Now look closely. A very surprising thing in here. In fact, you can't even look close enough from there. This kind of floored me a little bit. Lots of labeling on this thing, so it's great. But look at this, this, and this. And look what it says. Q104, Q103, that's a 2N109. Oh, they're all the same transistor, 2N109, but they look completely different here. So the shocking thing is, there's resistors in here. And I'm pretty sure they're just socketed. If I could pull this out, I think. I'm not going to pull on it just yet, but I think they're just in sockets. So this is kind of weird to my mind, that there should be these transistors here. There's no reason why this amp couldn't be built completely with tubes and would work fine. Why they've done this, I don't know. There's probably some curious engineering thing. Maybe they wanted to introduce a little bit of transistorized equipment at this point. It was a new thing, the newfangled thing. Maybe they want to introduce it here and get some experience with it, and this is what they decided to do. My guess is it's probably a preamp prior to this tube, these tubes here. And then the signal's just getting boosted, boosted, boosted all the way through. That's what I think these are doing. I don't really know. Could be doing other stuff. Look, there's a squelch control. You'll never see a squelch control on an amplifier like this. What's that all about? Mute control. So this is probably for some remote thing. You have to picture these jukeboxes were built to go into commercial establishments like restaurants, and sometimes remote control via wire. You have a wire maybe coming around behind where the cashier is, and maybe some volume control or something like that, remote from the actual jukebox. So there's another plug way in the back here. Hard to see now. Hard to see with that camera there. How about like that? So that right on it says remote volume. Now, you know, putting a volume control on the end of a 40 feet of wire is not an easy thing to do without introducing all kinds of noise and hums and stuff. So there's some special way it's done. I'm not saying it's a major trick or anything. It's just something special had to be done to enable this remote volume control, which may or may not be used in the case of the particular establishment. Where this jukebox has been, I have no idea. We'll work our way up here. Seeburg stereophonic high fidelity amplifier type SHFA1, code B. 150 watts. Chicago, Illinois. Let's see what else we can spot here. Channel 1 left, channel 2 right. Mute. So it has a mute switch. Kind of, well, why would you ever want to mute it? I have no idea, but it does. It has a mute switch here. Oh, spring loaded. So I'm guessing in pushing this, you can hear the effect of muting out one channel, and maybe that helps you resolve speaker problems in the establishment where this is. This might have remote speakers coming off of it, and in a large restaurant, oddly shaped room, it's tricky to know what is going on. So maybe that's what this was for. You mute it, mute it and kind of get a feel for which speakers are working and which ones aren't. I don't know. As a test plug here, I'm guessing in the factory after this is built, a plug goes in here which hooks us up to a test jig, which then reveals a pile of factors about the operation of it in a manufacturing environment, and then they can correct anything that's gone wrong. Oh, look at this. It actually gives a test result. So it's got the J105 test. It has arrows down to here. And it shows you J105 test, pin 1 ground, pin 2 minus 22, pin 3 minus 35, pin 4 plus 365, pin 5 is AVC. So this has automatic volume control in it. That's a little surprising. The automatic volume control works to compress the sound and kind of ruins the music to some degree. For an aficionado, they would hate to know the music is compressed. They're trying to uncompress it all the time. Of course, in a restaurant commercial environment, the problem is you got to get the music out over the sound of the environment. And restaurants are noisy, so it could be that the compression helps boost the average output volume and get the music right through the restaurant better than if they had it not compressed. I don't know. I'm making this up as I go. Treble range and bass. Well, why would they say treble range? It's treble dash range, but up here they just say bass. They don't say bass range. There's a reason for that. I don't know what it is. So we covered everything else. So these are 6 BJ6 tubes. One of these is dead, and I've got the replacement right over here. 12 AX7, 12 AX7s. So these are dual tubes, dual triodes. Very, very common. popular tubes, as popular as tubes can be. So maybe we can call this the preamp up to here. This is all the preamp stuff going on. We get down to the other end here. I'm going to hang this over my bench so we can see it. A little hard to see it. Let me tip it up. Okay. Didn't want that to happen. So they've actually drawn a line right in here to kind of help you separate it and, separate what's going on. So no doubt these two 12AX7s are the drivers of these output tubes, which I gotta guess are in push-pull. The fact that these are tall and these are short is nothing. These are the same tubes. Just these happen to be tall glass tubes. So then you can move these around. Doesn't make any difference, except one or two of these is dead. So what do we got? So there's the remote volume control. So the speaker output on this stuff is tricky business if you don't realize what goes on with commercial audio. Commercial audio, often the problem is sending the sound a long distance from the amplifier to the speakers, like in a restaurant. So the way you solve that is the same way they solve it in power transmission. You jack up the voltage. So if you see, this says, it's hard to see there, 70 volt. And this one over here says also 70 volt. It doesn't mean there's 70 volts on here. What it means is it's intended to have a high impedance speaker, and it's going to run the voltage to it up to as much as 70 volts. 70 volts really represents a hint of what kind of system it is. The 70 volts itself doesn't mean much. I don't know, is that clear? Hope that's clear. So if you hooked up ordinary 8-ohm speakers on here, something's gonna go. Something won't be happy about that. So that's bad. That would be bad, bad, bad. Here it says phono speakers. So what they're trying to say here is not that these are record player speakers, but these are the speakers. This is the connector that goes to the speakers that are inside the cabinet of the jukebox, right here. The jukeboxes, their fame and fortune hung on the quality of sound they could produce. They had to produce the big sound that people would come to the restaurant to hear, the big sound, because in their homes they had crappy sound or no sound. Also, the latest records were in this jukebox. So you go to the restaurant to hear the latest records in really good sound for a nickel or a dime or whatever it was at the time. So sound quality is a big issue with this, and this is designed by engineers not to sell in a store, right? They didn't make this thing to sell in a store. They made this to do a very important job from their point of view, and do it well, and do it for a long time without too much attention to it. These jukeboxes essentially ran 24/7. I bet you most of them were just left on, never turned off. So these are high mileage guys. Okay, so that's the top. What's underneath? You know what? If I pull this guy out here, and these two tall guys out, you can flip this right over and let it sit on top of this. Let's flip it over here. Wah! That's heavy, heavy, heavy. Okay. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Okay, so this is my second time peeking under here. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, boy, boy. Okay, first thing I would say is, man, there's a lot of stuff in here. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. Well, someone's been in here, of course. You can see these orange drop capacitors that have been installed. There's one here. These blue ones, I'm going to guess, are also new. They may not be. These may be original. A lot of this is original, for sure. There's a rectifier that I should probably change out before it catches fire. Oh my gosh, look at this stuff here. So my purpose today is to look at this stuff and just get a good image in my head on this, so I know what I'm up against. Now, my objective with this is to simply make it work. This was a working unit. The machine was moved from house to house, and after the move, this didn't work anymore for reasons unknown. Although I know it's full of dead tubes. Now think about this right now. 5 dead tubes. This is like finding a chain with 5 broken links. How can that happen? A chain fails when one link breaks and you throw the chain away. Well, actually, you get 2 chains. You get 2 chains out of that. But to somehow break a chain in 5 places at once, how can that happen? So it's kind of like that with this. So there's a bit of an answer to that question. I have a bit of an answer. This is a stereo unit, a 2-channel unit. If one channel was dead completely, it's possible the other channel working okay. If people listening to the jukebox wouldn't realize that. The jukebox speakers are just in one box, they're close together, so the stereo effect, you wouldn't notice it, and most people don't notice the stereo effect anyway, right? I think probably 30% of the population doesn't know stereo means 2 channels with separate sound in it. That's my guess. So maybe this was working enough that it gave the impression it was working well. Maybe. So there's some really bad looking capacitors here. Look at that. It all looks old, and looks like the whole thing's been hot a lot. Not really hot, but you know, run warm. I don't know. Just making that. How stiff are these wires? So, hey, wire's not too bad. Not too bad. So that's a good thing. Here's the wires coming out of the transformer here. Straight to the rectifier tube. Some high wattage resistors. Probably lots in here if I look long enough. So see how they've mounted the components. Oh, look at this. Okay, so there may be consequences to this or maybe not. So how's that get broken? Any one of a number of ways, but who knows. Anything else around here getting broken? Wow, there's a lot of parts in this thing. Oh my gosh. Look at this capacitor hidden back here. What is that? Is that a little tiny capacitor sticking out there? I'm not sure. So this may be a mirror image right down the middle here. So these 2 boards are the same. These 2 boards are the same. That's helpful. That means I've actually got 2 units here to compare. I can compare the left channel with the right channel. And as long as one of them is okay. So this black wire here is very poorly lap soldered here. You know, when you just lay the wires up beside and then solder like that. That's all that happened here. That doesn't seem like factory work. That's the kind of thing people would get in trouble for, I think, in the factory. So what is going on here? I don't know. Look at the capacitors jammed up in here. Oh, these aren't even, oh my god, these aren't capacitors. These are these very early, what you might want to call integrated circuits, where they've taken, they're not really integrated circuits, but they're kind of like it. They're packages of capacitors and resistors. And the problem with these things is inside them could be 3 capacitors and 2 resistors. And easily one of them can fail. Then you're forced to replace this whole part. Well, you're never going to find another one of these unless you get a whole unit like this, or you're really lucky to get an exact replacement here. So if these are defective, these present big problems in keeping jukeboxes. Did I start out by saying jukeboxes? If you want to own a jukebox, you better be a guy like me. That's why, because look at it. You know, if owning a jukebox in 1965 is not the same as owning that same jukebox in 2019. So this fuse holder is brand new in here. This is not original. It's kind of funny why that would be. I think maybe the owner may have told me he needed to replace the fuse, and the only way was to replace the fuse holder for the fuses he had. Not sure if that's true or not. So my impression of this guy, like if you were to do the wholesale change all the capacitors things, you might as well shoot yourself in the head right now, because when you're all done, if this unit is working well enough, then you can do the 1 or 2 capacitors at a time and repeatedly test it and make sure you haven't made a mistake that way, so you don't make 8 mistakes making 40 changes like I would. But the problem is if the unit is not working, or for some reason you cannot power it up and check, you could end up changing 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 capacitors or more, and then start it up, and good luck. So I'm saying all this out loud, but you know, I am talking to myself here. There's no one here listening to me. These are things I need to hear while I think about working on this guy. Okay, I think I got enough in my head now. Oh yeah. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. What's going on here? So this is either the power output control. Yeah, I didn't talk about that. These units have a switch that affects the power output. I don't fully understand what's going on there, because to me the power output of an amp is its power output, and you control it with the volume control and the kind of speaker you put on it. Why this thing has a switch, I don't exactly know, but I know it's quite important to have it set correctly. So you need to assess the number of watts of speaker capacity you have hooked up, and then set either this control or this one. You know, wait a minute, look. Oh, you know what this is. I know what this is for sure. Bass and treble, or the other way around. Inductors, capacitors, bass and treble. Did I get it right? Let's take a look and see. Did I get it right? Here we go. Oh, man alive. Man alive, this thing. Holy smokes. Wow. Of course. Bass and treble. Okay, so what about that speaker power control? That's way up at the other end here. Up here. So let's take a look at this thing. This is the one I meant. You have to, or you're supposed to set it anyway. Here it is here. Oh, I hear a cat crying outside there. So here's the switch. Ooh, it's not a very clicky switch. It'll stop in between there. So this would be a one-time thing one-time setting based on the kind of speakers you've hooked up to it in the establishment where this is operating. Then you set this appropriately. And again, I don't exactly know what the story is with it, but I know it's important or you can get distortion. Yeah, I think that's about it. All kinds of electrolytic capacitors in here. All these blue ones, just, you know, are they vintage? I'm looking at the style of connection, the style of soldering. I'm looking for hints that these blue ones have all been replaced. These are the replacements. I wouldn't bet on it. I think they're original. There's too many of them to be replacements. Can't be sure. If somebody did those like look at these. If somebody did these as replacements, they did a heck of a good job on it. You know what? It is possible. All these are replacements because every one of them, the wire wraps around the outside of the terminal. This one has a little bit of wire tail left, which again, in a factory environment, this is the kind of thing the inspector would say, hey, you're leaving tails. Tails lead to short circuits. So maybe all these blue ones have been replaced. All these blue ones are replacements. Yeah, you know what? I think they are. Because even the solder looks just a little extra shiny here. One there, one there. Match, 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 match. Wait a minute. These don't exactly match. So he's done one up here, but left its brother back here. You know, it's that paper one down in there. And here he's done this one. I don't see a blue one over here. And this one is missing. This one down here is missing on this side. So it looks like he's replaced this one and just relocated it here. Can't be sure of that. And then over here he's done two identical. He's done these two. He's done, oh, only one. He didn't do this one. This is a molded capacitor. These are all molded capacitors. They're all paper capacitors with plastic covers. There's nothing particularly wonderful about these. And some of these, even without leaking moisture, have enough contamination inside them in the paper when they're manufactured that over a long period of time that contamination will defeat the capacitor without even moisture going in. I think the Hunt's capacitors from England are the characters who do that. Wow, so how many capacitors would I have to change to remove all the ones that are reasonably suspected to be bad? Let's count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and a bunch more. So we're talking maybe, okay, forgetting about these, 30 capacitors. 30 capacitors. That's a lot. That is a lot. Now, it's not my objective here to go and change all these capacitors. My objective is to get this thing working again. Like a lot of vintage machines, they are basically used for demonstration purposes or played occasionally. So they don't have to be ruggedized. You don't have to change everything. And even if I changed all those capacitors, the chance of a problem developing in here is still fairly high. So it's not like do all that work and then you'll never have another problem. That's not what's going to happen. So they find the defective ones and replace them. It looks like the guy who did this was doing that, except it doesn't quite add up here, does it? Almost anybody doing these three would have done this one too. So what exactly was going on, I don't know. Defective tubes that are in here, the defective tubes may have cost some of these components. Not likely a capacitor, but likely a resistors. There's likely burned resistors in here. Oh my gosh. Good luck spotting all that stuff. This resistor looks replaced. Doesn't match the rest. So is there any others in here that have been changed? Sometimes these big high wattage ones get done, but they look original. Well, okay, maybe a closer examination we might find some resistors have been changed in here too, but offhand I don't see any. That doesn't look right. There's no the matching resistor on this side is this little low wattage one. It's got totally different colors. This big capacitor hanging here. There's no capacitor hanging over there. What's up with that? Aren't these things identical? Maybe not. Maybe not. Lots of stuff here to study up on too. Not just a lot of work here, but there's a lot of studying up. And 5 tubes. Wow. So good news is this was working until it wasn't. So last thing, maybe the very last thing is power input here. Now the owner I think he's an electrician or something like that. He has some basic electrical knowledge, so he's smart enough to do the fuse, and then he applied power to these 2 pins, or 2 of these 4 pins here. And he saw 1 or 2 tubes light up. I think maybe the rectifier tube lit up, but that's all. And that's what got him to bring this to me. So my comment would be maybe there needs to be power going here too. So this, there's another jukebox machine unit that butts up against this. These are guide pinholes here. There's a guide pin here, and when you put them up against each other inside the jukebox, these of course engage with the other unit. What exactly is going on over there, I don't know. But if you notice, there's no cord to plug this in. The cord is on the other unit. So it's probably just passing 120 volts right from the outlet right to here. What's going on down on these pins, I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. So that's another thing, is powering this thing up here in my shop so it can operate. You'll also have to consider signal input. That's not a big deal. Lots of ways to do that. And what are you going to do with the output? It's got to go to some speakers. So I got to figure that out too. I mean, this thing's looking for some big honking speakers to drive. This is a hungry beast. Hungry beast. Wow. And there might be, they might have built, oh my gosh, I knocked that over. How did 2 pins get bent? Just like that. I just momentarily lost control of the, this might be one of the dead ones anyway. How do these things go dead? People do stuff like that too. Yeah, there might be, they might have made, I don't know how many of these they made. Tens of thousands. So, you know, there could be a couple hundred of these floating around still. Maybe more. Maybe a lot more. So that's about it. I don't think I can go any further in looking at this and getting stuff in my head on it. So now what's going to happen next is I have to order the tubes I don't have. It's going to take a little while for them to come. I really don't want to start working on this until I have the tubes I need for it. So this guy's going to go away, and we're going to start on another radio which is being delivered here today. In fact, just a few hours. We're going to drop another radio off, so tomorrow, if I force myself into the shop here tomorrow, we'll be working on, we'll be looking at a radio. That's my thinking. But now I'm heading outside because the day, it just doesn't get any nicer than today here. So lucky me. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you on the next video when I get around to it.